guys, so today I am wanting to kind of help you guys out with your Accessport. I want to show you what I monitor, why I monitor certain things, and I'm also going to touch on knock, feedback knock, find knock learn. Because for me, first time I got an Accessport and I was reading what to monitor on it, those were the two most things I was so confused by. You couldn't just find a hard set answer online, and my answer for it is going to be kind of broad, but I want to try to give you guys the best general idea of what it is. So to start out with, my Subaru is not very modded. First of all, it's a 2013 WRX hatch, it's not an STI. And all that's done to it is I have a Cobb cold air intake with the box, which that requires a tune. I have an axle back exhaust, that does not require a tune. If you have a downpipe, high flow cat downpipe, that's going to require a tune. And then I have a Perrine pulley on there, just because my old one, my OEM one, broke, so I decided to get that one. So there's really not much done to my engine, but I would highly recommend an Accessport being one of your first mods you get on a Subaru if you plan on modding it, if you plan on doing stuff to it. So a lot of things on a Subaru require a tune. Downpipe, cold air intake, some of the air oil separators. So if you're going to start, if you plan on upgrading your car, my first buy would be an Accessport, which mine was, even if you're not doing much to it, because for the extra flow of a cold air intake, your Accessport, your over-the-shelf, your off-the-shelf tune on the Accessport will cover that extra flow on the cold air intake, same as your high flow cat downpipe or catless downpipe. Now Cobb has a bunch of tunes preloaded on the Accessport, but which is what I'm running now. But once you start doing more upgrades than what I have, you should really get a Pro Tune, Dyno Tune, just to make sure that everything is running specific to your car, because cars can run different, you know. So anyway, I've got a picture of my Accessport on my phone because I didn't feel like sitting in my car doing this, and I'll have a picture up for you guys, probably over here, of the Accessport and what I monitor. So first, of course, I monitor boost, just so I can see what kind of boost I'm pulling, make sure that there's no boost leak, make sure my number goes up to around 16 and comes back down to around 10 or 11. From what I've seen, your boost is not actually, your vacuum is not actually 11, it's like around 20, but the Accessport only shows like down to 11. I don't quite understand that, and if I'm wrong about that, you can correct me in the comments. But it goes up to around 16 and a half. And to specify, I only have the OTS SF cold air intake tune on my car. Next I have feedback knock, and then find knock learn. I'll get into that after I finish these. Those are two of the most, well, also I have DAM. Those are the three most important things to monitor on your Accessport from what I've seen. Coolant temp, just to make sure my car's not going to explode, make sure it's not overheating or anything, because I also did the cylinder 4 cooling mod on mine, and you want to be able to see that temp, make sure it goes up to like 190 or something, and make sure it's coming back down and it just doesn't keep rising. Your intake temp I like to monitor that because if you're getting like, if you're getting over 100-degree intake temp, I personally stay away from doing pools. I don't want that hot air getting forced into my engine and just making it even hotter in there. So that's why I monitor that. The colder the better, obviously. And it's getting to be boost season now, so that's something we don't really have to worry about. But also, I'd recommend getting the box on the cold air intake so that your engine isn't just sitting there heat soaking. I mean, it'll still heat soak, and you can see that on the intake temp. You can see it rise when you're sitting at a traffic light or something. But you really want to make sure that that's not just getting way up there. You turn your car off or something. A lot of people will monitor air-fuel ratio, which is important when you start modding your car, even with just a air intake, because you want to make sure your car's not running lean. If it's running lean, it can blow up, and it's really just hard on the engine. So I actually have a separate wideband gauge in my car for that, so I don't monitor that on my Accessport. But when you do a pool, it should be like 12.7. And then when you're just running normal, I think it should be around 14 and a half. Pretty sure that's right. So I'd recommend getting a gauge for that. Anyway, let's dive into feedback knock. So I understand what it is, but I took some notes down from Cobb to really try and give you guys a good explanation of it. So your feedback knock, which you can see on mine, you can see first of all, ideally, in a perfect world, feedback knock, find knock learn are going to be 0, and your DAM is going to be 1. So your ECU picks up noises with a microphone that's hard mounted to your engine block, and that microphone picks up on special frequencies that indicate knock. So that one, I mean, it's important to see, but you can easily get false knock readings. And then one instance of knock is if you can have like pre-detonation in one of your cylinders, and that'll build up a lot of pressure in that cylinder, and that'll throw feedback knock. So that's basically what that is. And when I blew up my car, when I spun a rod bearing, and you could hear the knock when I would rev it right when I first kind of didn't know it happened, my feedback knock would consistently shoot up to like 5 or 6. Now, if you take your car down the road and you do a pull and it shoots up to 5 every time you do a pull or more, there's an issue with your car and you need to, it's knocking, you need to stop and figure it out. But if you take your car down the road and say you drive your car every day of the week and you get a knock reading of 5 once or twice a week, it's fine, don't worry about it. A lot of guys will throw their Accessport in the glove box because they just watch these numbers and it'll drive them crazy. But anyway, so that's feedback knock. It's just a real-time knock reading of your engine, any noise in your engine. So if it's consistently going up every time you drive it past like 5, you got an issue. If it's just like 1 or 2, I pretty much ignore it because that happens almost every time I drive the car. If I got a Pro Tune or even an E-Tune at Torque Performance, it would probably be better, which I plan on doing that sooner than later. But anyway, let's move on to Find Knock Learn. So Find Knock Learn is basically your ECU has learned off of your feedback knock. It has learned to pull out ignition timing to adjust it at certain RPMs to make sure to prevent the knock. So, I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's your engine adjusting to those knock noises, making sure it's running healthy. It pulls out timing. And then, like, you can see that mine is, right now, my car is sitting still and it's set to negative 1.4. So the last week I drove it, I guess I had a knock reading, which this isn't normal for my car. That number is usually always 0. But I had a knock reading that was negative 1.4 consistently. So my engine, or my ECU, adjusted to that so that my engine was running smoothly. If that number is higher, well, if I rev it up, if I rev the car up at another RPM, that'll go down to 0. So it sets it at certain RPMs. The bigger that number, in my opinion, the worse. So that is overall the gist of feedback knock and fine knock learn. Feedback knock is your real-time knock measurement. Fine knock learn is your engine adjusting to that feedback knock reading, making sure your engine runs smoothly. You're going to see all these very extensive explanations online, but after the 4 years, I think, of owning mine, that is really the most important thing to know, I think, of what it actually is. Okay, so for the last thing we have your DAM, which, to my understanding, the very broad explanation of DAM is your timing adjustment, same as the feedback or the fine knock learn. It's your timing adjustment to a wide range of RPMs. Fine knock learn was just like 1 RPM area, and DAM is your overall adjustment to the engine. Now, a lot of people think if that number changes, it's catastrophic. That's not necessarily the case. If that is basically just a tool to rule out certain things if you're having an issue. But that's overall the gist of what I have learned of what it is your overall timing being pulled of the engine. That number sometimes can lower from 1 if you do like an ECU set, and I'm pretty sure that's just your car relearning itself. My number has never ever changed. If that number's changing consistently, I think you probably have an issue, and I would have a tuner look at your car. But I think my number changed once, a long time ago, and I think it's after I reset the ECU, and I drove it a couple times, and it went back to 0, so it basically relearned itself. So that's basically the gist of that. Anyway, that is all the stuff that I monitor on my Accessport, why I monitor it, and trying to give you guys the best explanation of feedback knock, fine knock learn, and DAM, because that was the most confusing things when I first got my Accessport. I highly recommend an Accessport. It's pricey, but I mean, honestly, you have to have it if you start upgrading your car. If you guys want me to touch on anything else, even if I might not know it, I'll do some research and make another video for you. Just throw it in the comment section. And I don't know, I think my next video might be working on the rail buggy. I got to pull the engine and do a rear main seal. So if you guys are interested in that, stay tuned for that video. Check out some of my old videos. I've got more Subaru videos if you want to see more about my car or what all mods are done to it. Alright guys, that is going to be it for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and want to see more content coming out. I mainly just have I've got a truck, my WRX and my rail buggy. I will be getting a Harley here soon if you guys are into any of that stuff. So thanks for watching.